Oh my gosh, what is that? Bird? A plane? Four-legged ostrich? Nope, what it is just another viewer watching without subscribing. Yep, there it is. This is something that happens consistently on this channel. About 3% of you actually do subscribe, which is why I do have about, I don't know, what is it, 12,000 subscribers now, which is, that baffles my brain every single day. But some of you said that this channel deserves more than that. Well, if about 50% of you actually subscribe to this channel, I think this channel will have about 1.5 million subscribers, so there is that. So you see the button, it's red right now, most likely for you. What you have to do is you have to absolutely extract all the essence out of that red button. You have to just take a straw, stick it in there, suck out all that red until it's gray, blacked out, you feel me? And once you've done that, make sure to commemorate with the church bells, you know, ring that bell right next to it, and then we can be on our way to testing out this 2016 Porsche Cayenne. All right, let's see what we have here. Actually, we have a whole lot here. Actually, I'm not even gonna hold you. I'm not even gonna try and waste much of your time. If you just want the short version, here it is. I have no complaints with the way that this thing actually drives. To be honest, I now see that these vehicles, these Porsches or whatever, these are not just a brand or like a logo stuck onto a vehicle. There's a legitimate difference between this and just like ordinary vehicles. These things are no joke. And throughout this review, I'm going to try and explain what that is actually, what separates this from like, I don't know, like a RAV4 or something like that. I've definitely been able to spend some time with this vehicle, and let me tell you, most people who are going to get into this, they're going to be pretty impressed with just the capabilities of this. That's really, you know, if you want to sum this vehicle up in one word, it's definitely the capabilities that this thing has. It's an SUV, so I know really nobody likes SUVs, I get that, but this, like, when you hear reviewers say that this outperforms some cars, or even in some cases some sports cars, you know, that sounds like a soliloquy of just pure nonsense. But once you actually get behind the wheel of these vehicles, you realize that they're not joking. These things, it does handle a certain way, definitely superior to some vehicles, yeah, some cars for sure actually, and that is a remarkable feat. Let's, I guess, start off with some specifications, I guess. Well, usually I start out with the looks. People have very, you know, extreme opinions, I guess, on the looks. I'm not even going to touch on that, to be honest. I love the way that this thing looks. Very expensive looking, very even sporty / aggressive looking. But anyway, the engine's actually pretty interesting. So this is the base trim level. So it has like the 3.6 liter direct injected V6. I think this is like that Volkswagen like VR6 motor. I actually do like this motor quite a bit. I think it reacts really well, but a lot of that has to do with the transmission. I'll get to that next. But it's a Volkswagen engine, so Volkswagen parts, obviously. So maintenance on this isn't going to be too terribly bad compared to other luxury car vehicles. But it makes about 300 horsepower and 295 pounds-feet of torque. Now, that doesn't sound particularly great. I think it does like 0 to 60 in about 7.5 seconds. That sounds like nothing to get excited about. But honestly, the point is this thing feels effortless on the road, and that's really all that matters to me. And actually, it sounds pretty good too. And it's a V6, no 4-cylinder nonsense going on here. It's a legitimate V6, so it actually sounds pretty aggressive. You know, I actually had to check the hood underneath just to make sure that it doesn't have some kind of intake or whatever, like a modified one, because the noise, the tone really does come through the cabin, and I really like that. It's an aggressive feeling vehicle in terms of the acceleration and all that. And dude, one of my most favorite things about this vehicle, this 8-speed transmission, by far one of my most favorite things. It just reacts so perfectly. But unfortunately, you know, I'll put this in sport, you know, real quick. Unfortunately, the paddles are not so good. It takes, there's a bit of a hesitation when you use the paddles, and I don't really like that. So I'm going to put this back into normal and back in automatic, because that's my most favorite way to handle this vehicle. Just put it in normal, and it just reacts so well to all your little inputs that you give it to the throttle. So I love that. Now the next thing, the handling of this bad boy is truly awe-inspiring. Dude, this thing is like, what is it, 4,400 pounds or something like that? It really should not, you know what I'm saying? Like, it should not handle this well. But there is a level of poise and precision that this vehicle has that not too many other vehicles will. I mean, you question, like, how is it doing this? And that's, you know, this is a 2016 model. So, you know, this has the double wishbone suspension. I think in 2017 they did heavily revise the actually engine as well. You know, it has like a 3-liter V6 with the turbo. This is the naturally aspirated, and the handling, dude, I just chucked this thing in there, and man, it handles itself so freaking well. So this still does retain a double wishbone front suspension with the multi-link in the rear. That's fine. That's phenomenal, actually. Most vehicles in this class will. However, like the new one, you know, like the 2017 one, they went to, you know, a lot more aluminum being used. There's a lot of aluminum being used here, but there's a lot of aluminum used in the suspension components. It went to like this multi-link setup in the front, so kind of strayed away from the double wishbone a little bit to a more advanced version of that, I guess. What they claim is that it's going to be more powerful and more refined, more comfortable, and it's going to handle better for the 2017. I haven't driven it, obviously, but I feel like it would, because yes, this Cayenne handles so freaking good, but the consequences of that is that this is very BMW-like. And what do I mean by that? The ride quality of this is not perfect. You definitely do feel the road probably more than you might like. You know, like I was in a 2018 GLE 43, and you know, this will destroy that in terms of handling, body control, chassis, all that, but that Mercedes like rode way better. Now, I'll say one of the most, you know, I guess, dangerous things about this Cayenne is that it masks its speed so well. Like, this drives too good for this street, actually, is what it feels like. 45 miles per hour, dude, feels like a snail's pace in this thing. 35 miles per hour, dude, you feel like you want to just kill yourself. Like, it just, oh my God, 35 miles per hour, it feels like you're not even moving. It feels like you're just on your, like, arms and legs just crawling around. That's what that genuinely feels like. So, like, right now I'm doing 45, and that's a speed limit here, and you feel like time is just moving slower around you. It's really ridiculous. You feel like you have so much, like, reaction time on the road. It's pretty impressive, but you always want to do 20 miles plus over, really, whatever the speed limit is. That's what you always feel like doing. It's such a dangerous thing because you can easily get speeding tickets with this thing. It's not a Turbo S or a Turbo R or whatever the hell. It's just, you know, a base model Cayenne, and it just feels so effortless on the street. And this is kind of why I'm not too crazy about, you know, these insane, like, you know, $200,000 vehicles with, like, you know, 800, 900 horsepower. It's just, this already is effortless, first of all, but also the way it just masks its speed. And I had it out on the highway, dude, 75, 77 miles per hour. It feels like nothing in this vehicle. It's so easy to get a ticket in this thing. It's not even funny. So that's really just shows just how well made, just how much of a quality experience this is. And this vehicle has about 33,000 miles on it, so definitely a used vehicle. It doesn't have a crap load of miles on it, but definitely has some miles for sure. With that, there's definitely a rattle coming from the rear. I did notice that, but otherwise, like 95% of the time, you don't hear anything. It's pretty much dead silent in here, almost Lexus-like build quality in here. I'm going to go over the interior in a bit because that's very impressive as well about this vehicle. I have literally no complaints with the way that this thing drives, and I might have even said that in some other, I think I said that about the Telluride and all that, and, you know, but this really is legitimately that good, and this is so much better because of this proper transmission, the way, like, you can just fling it around like it's nothing. Like, this all-wheel drive system is superb, and it's like all-wheel drive all the time, and it's got like this torque vectoring thing, so it's always sending power to where it detects slip. This particular vehicle has 255 tires all around, so, and it's like these Falcon tires. It's not even like the best tires. So with all that being established, this thing still never chirps its tires. It's always so rock solid on the road, and man, it's just an impressive vehicle. And it's just, you realize that it's just not a badge on a vehicle. It's truly a well-engineered vehicle. See, look at this. it almost kind of oversteered there actually. It's not like a body on frame vehicle. It's a unibody platform, but this thing can legitimately tow over 7,700 pounds. So, it's pretty smart enough to do that because it keeps like 911 GT3 owners within the Porsche family. Like, people want to tow their race car out to the racetrack. They can just get this Cayenne because they don't have to go down the street to the Chevy or the Ford dealership and get a pickup truck. They can just get this Cayenne and use this to tow their 911 to the track with. So that was kind of smart of them to do that. It's kind of like a do-everything vehicle. I mean, the handling, it even has, because of the all-wheel drive, it'll even take care of some off-road capabilities as well for you. But really, what are you going to see? Some gravel, some snow, even some heavy snow, a front-wheel drive vehicle can handle that. So I'm not too, I don't really care about that. But the on-road dynamics of it, it's fun to drive. It's reasonably comfortable. You feel the road more than you might like. Even on first impressions, it was very like BMW-like in the way that this thing handles, like from the steering feel, from the ride quality. I got that kind of BMW impression, but once you push it more, you realize that the capabilities of this far exceed a BMW or really anything within its class. So that's what's impressive about this. And speaking of capabilities, I'm going to, this is kind of the end of the driving segment. So before we get into that interior, I'm going to try and explain to you why this is superior to something like a RAV4 or a Telluride or a CX-5 Mazda or something like that. More of those ordinary vehicles that I have reviewed on this channel and I really enjoyed and I really liked and I said handled extremely well. What's the difference between a vehicle like that handling well and the difference between like something like a Cayenne handling really well? Well, I think a lot of that has to do with the capabilities and the engineering. So what you're going to see on most of those vehicles is a strut-based suspension, the chassis, their front-wheel drive platform vehicles. So not a whole lot going on there in terms of really engineering. This is more proper double wishbone, particularly with BMW. Literally every BMW, if you didn't know this, even to an X5, an X7, a 7 Series, 3 Series, whatever, they all have a 50-50 weight distribution. They tout that all the time on their website and on all their old press release things. So, and I think this vehicle also kind of has that. I think this is like pretty close to a 50-50 weight distribution because this chassis is so damn well balanced. It's just, that's rare for an SUV, dude. So that's something like a Telluride doesn't have, but at the same time handles really well. It'll handle well on a street at like 45 mile per hour speeds. This thing, it'll do all that excellent handling at like 75, 85, 95 miles per hour. You know what I'm saying? You can fling it in even at those speeds, and that's the confidence that you have within this. Like in the RAV4s and stuff like that, sure, you have plenty of confidence piloting that at your regular everyday city speeds. And that's excellent. That's really all you really need in a vehicle. So again, what's the point of this? Why would you spend the money? Like brand new, what was this, like 80 grand, even used or certified pre-owned? This thing is over 40 grand. So what are you getting with this vehicle? Well, other than prestige and all that, you're getting a car that handles, that has like a level of capability that far exceeds anything that you need on the street. Why does that matter? Because you do feel that on the street. You feel like, oh my gosh, like this car can do so much more. Whereas the RAV4 is like, when you get them out like on the roundabouts, like on a highway or something like that, you can start to feel like the edge of that vehicle a little bit more. Whereas this, you can keep pushing and you're like, damn, like this thing can still keep going and it can still keep like gripping. And that has a lot to do with, again, the suspension, that torque vectoring, that, all these intelligent systems that, might break down one day, but like for right now, it's what aids these vehicles to handle so well and to have that capability that something like those ordinary vehicles just can't have. Do you necessarily need? No, but do you feel it on the road? Yes. And it just makes, you can own this for like 10 plus years and be super satisfied with it. And that's why there's such a following for like these BMWs and these Porsches, because they do certainly handle a certain way. Now, yes, the newer vehicles, like the newer BMWs, are sapping away a lot of the feel. Sure, they're still capable, but they don't have a feel. This one has a feel to it. The steering, the ride quality, I like that slightly harsher ride that makes you feel everything. So I enjoy really everything about this driving experience. Like I said, engine, trans combination, phenomenal. Don't use the paddles. You know, it's unfortunate. I do love these paddle shifters, but leave it in automatic and you're going to love cruising around in this, and you're going to feel like an absolute boss. Visibility is excellent. Seeing out of the car, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have that higher ride height and you just feel safe when you're in this vehicle. So let's get more into the interior aspect of this vehicle now. All right then, well, time to step inside the 2016 Porsche Cayenne. This is what a true luxury car interior is like, I assume. If this isn't a luxury car interior, then I don't know what is, because, well, a lot of that has to do with this color. I mean, this color is phenomenal. And not only that, it's held up extremely well. Yeah, there's some wear, like on the steering wheel, like very light wear from use, but overall, like the seats and stuff, excellent. Like no wrinkles, whatever. Like that's why I mentioned that this is very similar to just Lexus quality, and the fact that, you know, it wears in so well even with 33,000 miles on it. So that's great. And we have here the key, you know, in the shape of a car. Well, kind of looks like a Panamera, but whatever, right? And thing is that's interesting is you actually stick this whole key in the left side here, like you do with old Benz or something like that, or like an old Volkswagen. You actually stick this whole key fob in there, but you do it on the left side because it's like this Le Mans, or, you know, this Porsche racing history. You know, this nonsense is fine in like a 911 or a Cayman, you know, a vehicle with some sort of racing pedigree, but a vehicle that Porsche created just to facilitate sales and keep the company afloat so they can continue making 911s and stuff like that. Really, a vehicle like this, they should have just put a push button start into this vehicle. I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. This is just so extra. Like, you know, at first I thought push button start was just an absolute unnecessary, stupid thing, but it truly is kind of a convenience. You just leave your key in your pocket, just, you know, keyless access, like get inside the vehicle, you know, you don't have to touch the key, just put your hand behind the handle, you just get in, and then you just push a button to start. You don't have to fumble with the key. I'm not even gonna lie to you guys, that has been a convenience feature that I have been able to appreciate. And it's just like, you know, kind of a nuisance now to every time, you know, get into a vehicle to turn that. But, you know, whatever, it is kind of cool. It is kind of unique in the fact that it's on the left side. It's unique to Porsche, so it's kind of cool. I'm not gonna complain about it because Porsche people are their head is gonna explode now that I've said that. Anyway, this interior space, dude, I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of good here, but this is super fussy. At first, when I got into this vehicle, I'm not even gonna lie, this was pretty intimidating. This is a lot of stuff going on here. It's not a lot of stuff going on per se. Half of this is climate control, but it's just so many buttons. And then you have this infotainment that, honestly, yeah, this is showing its age. Like, this is really not the best.
Navigation is not active.
You know, it's just dumb, really, if I'm gonna be honest with you. It's not my most favorite thing. Everything is rather clumsy and fussy going on in this interior space. But once you get used to it, like once you spend a bit of time with it, it's not so bad. Like I said, half of this is dedicated to the climate control, defrosting, hazard button, you know, your AC, like recirculation of the air and all that stuff. But in the newer model, what do? They did something that Acura did. And they just went to two screens, basically. And look at what Acura did now. They ditched the two screens in the new Honda Accord, and they just went to one screen with knobs and buttons, like mainly knobs in the interior space to handle the climate control stuff, so you don't have all of these buttons going on. You see what I'm saying, for like the fan speed and all that stuff. You know, at least there are buttons for this stuff. At least this is separated from the screen, so that's good, you know. But regardless, it can be a little bit clumsy to use. You always have to look down while you're driving if you're not used to all this. Like, you know, the screen, you know, there's just a lot of you have to go into like a menu all the time. There's just so much just nonsense going on. Like, I tried to reset the time of this vehicle, and it was just such a pain to like even access that menu. And, you know, it's just so much. I don't even want to go through all this nonsense again. Yeah, it's just, I don't like using this whatsoever. Literally, the only thing I care about with infotainment, you just connect your phone with the Bluetooth and you're done. That's the only thing I care about, is listening to music. So those are kind of my negatives. Now, the rest of it, you know, you can pretty much assume is all going to be good. First of all, just the fit and finish in here is like literally number one. Love it. It is so solid and well built in here. Very impressive. It's just not all this. Also, the buttons, there's like a legit, like you had to press these things down. Like, it's not just like a light click. You really had to push it in. Same goes for all of these little buttons here. So that's something to know, you know, and all the buttons on here as well, you know, all the window switches. First of all the window switches are automatic, like one touch up and down, so that's excellent. Everything has a great weight to it, so love that. Now these seats are really nice in this vehicle, very comfortable, very supportive, and like I mentioned, they aged really well. No like wrinkles or anything like that, even with this beige color. And like I mentioned, a bit of wear here, but that's kind of what you get when you go for this, you know, big baller pimp edition interior, you know what I'm saying? But this is just a very phenomenal color choice. I love how this whole vehicle is covered in this beige color, from the door, from the dash, everything, and the steering wheel even. Usually when you get a color like this, like the steering wheel would be like black, but not in this case. It's actually beige, so I love that. And it feels phenomenal as well, this wheel. And you know, these paddles, they felt amazing. They're nice cold metal, and they're a great size and everything, but it just does not react that well. It reacts better when you just leave it in automatic, so that's the thing with this. And it is a traditional, just, you know, up and down, you know, clicks into the gear, so that's nice. One thing I will mention about the steering though, while we're on the subject, is this steering wheel, you know, if you put your foot on the brake and you turn it all the way to one side, it will vibrate a little bit, and that is actually normal. It'll vibrate just a little bit, but if it vibrates a lot, like more than it should, it's probably just low on like power steering fluid. So something to note there. Just thought I would let you know, because at first, like, it did feel a little bit unrefined. That's normal since it's all-wheel drive all the time. I just thought I'd let you know that. But if it is low on power steering fluid, you'll get that like vibration even when you're like backing the vehicle into like a parking spot or something, so that kind of sucks. Now going back to the features a little bit here, there is no heated seats in this vehicle, in this $80,000 vehicle for when it's stickered new. That's kind of unfortunate, because like a $26,000 like Acura ILX will come with heated seats. So that kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Here's your sport mode, your trashing off, and your auto stop start off. That's all, like, you know, it's all logically laid out, which is good. That's why I said once you get used to it, it's not so bad. And you have like this off-road, on-road toggle switch here to like turn off like your differentials and all that stuff right here. Very simple. The turn signal, it's not like an older BMW, it's actually like a normal turn signal, so I appreciate that. Your cruise control is down here, and your gauge cluster, very plain Jane, very normal, very traditional Porsche. But again, kind of fussy, a lot of things going on. Takes a minute to get used to all this at first. But I do like how they put the tachometer in the middle, and it does have a digital speedometer down here. And like I mentioned, you do have your little thing on the side. Kind of shows you your typical stuff. I do like how, you know, if you're using a navigation on this, it'll actually show up on here too, so you don't have to take your eyes off the road and look at this. You can actually look down here. So that's pretty cool. Storage space. The door pocket space is excellent. You can definitely fit like huge bottles in there. You can fit a huge bottle right here on the center here for the cup holders. This center thing has an attitude, like it doesn't like to open up all the time, but it feels so solid for no apparent reason. So I do like that, but not a lot of space in there, unfortunately. But, you know, like I said, door pockets are pretty good. Glove box, not too bad either. You got these little handles here. Now I kind of see where the Kia Telluride got its whole inspiration for its interior space. Got it straight out of the Cayenne here. But yeah, man, solid interior space. It's aged really well. I'm very impressed with it. Oh, I guess I'll end off with all this here. Panoramic sunroof. That is pretty baller. So far, it's not like really rattling too much. It could be the panoramic sunroof that's rattling. I don't know. But this interior light is it's pretty crazy. It lights up this whole thing. It's like yellow. It looks like a bathroom bulb, like Tall Guy likes to say. It's kind of strange. But while we're up here, these mirrors, you know, I talked about this in the driving summit. You know, the actual like visibility is good, but the shape of like these mirrors, why is it so stupid? It's like, you know, yeah, it has great visibility, but it's compromised because of the shape of the mirror a little bit. Like, it's like all these little heart-shaped things, like kind of weird. I wish it was just straight up rectangles, but it's not too bad. Like I said, it's an easy vehicle to drive and place on the road. It's not like a super large vehicle. It's actually one of the smaller vehicles in its class, so I'm not really tripping over it. I'm just saying it's kind of interesting. Let's just end off on this. Traditional, nice little Porsche clock. Center of the stage, looks like money. Love it. Love this interior space as a whole. Very excellent job there. Let's go ahead and check out those back seats. All right, well, climbing into the back seats. So step in height is really good. It's not like a super high SUV, so that's phenomenal. I do like that. But yeah, once you get in here, you have plenty of room. I'm 5'11". The seat is set to my setting, and headroom, leg room, obviously zero issues for sure. A lot of that has to do with the fact that this is not like a third row crossover type vehicle. It's just a 2-row vehicle. So that's kind of why you have plenty of space in here. And I enjoy it, man. You can definitely even sit in the third seat as well, like in the middle seat. I mean, the transmission tunnel is not super big. You do have some HVAC here as well, which is very nice. And the seats are very comfortable, just like it is in the rear seats. These seats do fold down. The luxury does continue. Of course, you do have little ashtrays because you'll be smoking big cigars in here, right? And these door handles, very high quality. I forgot to mention that in the front. All these trim pieces and stuff like that, they're put together so well, very solid. Like I mentioned multiple times, like Lexus levels of solidity in here. So that's excellent. You can definitely fit a huge bottle in there as well in the door pocket. They did a great job with that. These side armrest things, it feels like you could flip them up, but you can't. So don't try to rip them off. Like I mentioned, one touch up and down for the windows. Speaker grills, plenty of speakers going on. I didn't really talk about this, but this is the base audio system. It's not the premium or like the Bose or anything like that. It sounds okay, very bass heavy. They tend to do that when you have a bass, not the non-premium sound system. They like to up the bass a little bit to make it seem like it sounds really good. But for the most part, man, I think you're gonna like spending time in the Cayenne. This is a very nice interior. It's really baller when you get in a color like this. So that's awesome, and I really appreciate how everything is beige in here, so that's awesome. And wrapping up the interior as a whole, I'll just talk about the trunk as well. So the trunk, very large, sizable trunk, to be honest. A lot of people are saying that this is not like a large vehicle. It's not the largest in its class, but dude, this is more than enough. It's not like, the CX-5 Mazda, there was a legitimate reason for people to complain about that. That really wasn't that big. But this, you have so much space in the rear. You have a very decent amount of space in the back, and you can even fold down these seats. So this is a very practical vehicle in my personal opinion. Obviously, Porsche is not going to make this huge, like GLS X7 sized, because they wanted to preserve that excellent, driving dynamic that Porsche is known for. So there is that. But that's kind of my take on the 2016 Porsche Cayenne. Very solid, sturdy vehicle from the drive to the interior, all that stuff. I think it's a great looking vehicle as well. Let's go ahead and let's just wrap this video up, shall we? All right, so the 2016 Porsche Cayenne. So wrapping this video up, what do I really think about it? So, you already kind of saw, my driving impression, interior impressions, all that stuff. It's an $80,000 Porsche, what I'm saying? It better be good, and it is. It lives up to its reputation, to the hype, to, what the brand stands for, and that's an excellent driving vehicle that's of high quality. So, not only does it drive great, but it's got this super solid interior, just everything has a nice, solid, sturdy feel that you would expect out of a German vehicle. Everything from opening and closing the door, all the, just how tight, the interior panels are put together, and the way that, there's hardly any creaks and rattles, other than the thing that I heard in the back. That could be a result of that panoramic sunroof. A lot of those pano sunroofs do tend to rattle because the glass is just so big. I'm not really sure what that is. But aside from that, it's just like I said. I mean, not only just fun to drive, but you just have an insane sense of confidence. And I think that's what a lot of people are looking for when they, step up to vehicles like this. It's not just a prestige thing. People want to feel safe, secure. People buy this, they tend to have money. So what do people with money want? They want to feel safe. That's why you see a lot of rich people driving around in Tahoes and stuff like that. And I was even recently in an accident, but I was driving my father's truck. It was my fault, obviously. You can watch my 2019 Ram Rebel review. That was the vehicle that we got as a rental that I did a review on. But yeah, because we were in that large vehicle, we were safe. Nothing happened to us. And when you drive this, pretty much nothing is going to happen to you, even if you do get into an accident. But let's hope that doesn't ever happen to anybody. This is a base Cayenne that I reviewed, so it doesn't have the Turbo S or the SS or whatever. It's just a regular one with the, Volkswagen, inspired, like, V6 with 300 horsepower. The point is, it feels effortless, and that's all that matters. And it always feels like it has gobs of power to offer, and that's very impressive. 300 horsepower really isn't a lot, and especially in something that weighs like 4,400 pounds. I didn't expect this thing to move so well. A lot of that has to do with the transmission. Transmission is perfection. It's not the PDK, it's just like that Tiptronic thing, and it's still so good. So very impressed with that. Steering feel, all the inputs, just every input you give it, like, it'll do anything. You feel like you can do anything in it. And a lot of the reason why I want to review this is because it's a 2016. It's used. It's like 40 Gs now, even for a certified pre-owned one. So you can still get a warranty with it. And for most people, like regular people kind of like me, you look at this and you go, like, are these vehicles worth it? Are they worth the price tag? A lot of vehicles are really not. A lot of luxury cars I would not consider buying. But a few stand out to me, like, I love the Genesis G80. Despite what you might think about the brand, that is one of my all-time most favorite vehicles. A lot of the Lexus cars, very rewarding and satisfying to own. And these are not spec sheet monster vehicles. They're just great cars that never got, the props that they deserve. Porsche always gets all the props. So is it worth it? Is it deserved? Yes. Like I mentioned, like in the driving segment, this is certainly a step above in terms of capabilities over like RAV4s and CRVs and stuff like that. You might be able to take a corner in those things at like 45 volt. You can take a corner in this at like 75, 85 miles per hour. That's the difference. And you do feel that on the road. And that's what makes these things so satisfying to own. You can do anything, and it just gives you great pleasure when you pilot such a capable vehicle on just everyday roads. You feel superior, you feel like a boss, especially in this SUV. You're sitting up a little bit higher, so it's a very prestigious, and just you have a proud feeling when you drive this thing, especially when you're wrapped in like this luxury interior like this. Really phenomenal. So I think just wrapping everything up, drives phenomenal, interior is solid, and I personally think there's plenty of space for most people. And being a Porsche, it's going to have really good resale value for what it is. And if you pick them up certified pre-owned, you can continue to own it with the warranty and still have decent equity in it because it holds its value so well. Most Porsche products do. That pretty much wraps up my review on the 2016 Porsche Cayenne. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope to do more reviews like this. I'll have on the end screen coming up soon some other reviews that you can watch on this channel. And with that, I hope you subscribed. If you want, you can become a Patreon member. I'll leave that stuff down below. But thank you very much for watching. Take care and goodbye.